introducing our next speaker. And she needs no introduction, but I'm going to give you a very short introduction of our next spotlight speaker, Dr. Rana Dajani. Dr. Rana Dajani is actually a visiting professor currently at MIT. And she's the president of Society of Advancement in Science and Technology in the Arab world. She was awarded the Jordan Star of Science by His Majesty King Abdullah II. And Dr. Dajani is also a social entrepreneur and the founder and director of non-governmental organization We Love Reading. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Rana.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm here today to share with you what I know about social entrepreneurship. Social entrepreneurship is simple. Social entrepreneurship is innate. Social entrepreneurship is how we survived as a species. And we thrived and we are here today. It's what kept us going through the millennia. Every human being is a social entrepreneur. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. And let me tell you the story of how I discovered what social entrepreneurship is. I grew up in a family of 8 girls. I was the eldest. We didn't have a TV, so we spent our childhood reading stories and novels, anything we could get our hands on, journals, magazines, you name it. We also did a lot of role-playing, the novels and the stories that we were reading. And we played outside. And that led me to have a wild, wild imagination. I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to go to the Arctic and go to the depth of the ocean. But, as in our part of the world, if you're smart, you're expected to go into medicine. But after my first year in college, I decided I didn't want to be a physician. I was scared that I would make a mistake and accidentally harm a human being, and I couldn't sleep with that. So I thought, I'll be a scientist, and as a scientist, I'll discover the reasons behind disease, and so I would be helping humanity. And the worst thing I could do was, kill a cell, right? And I could live with that. But in Jordan, there were no PhD programs. Although I got accepted for a PhD program at the University of Cambridge in England, but I didn't have the money to go. So I kind of put that dream on the shelf. I got married, and I had 4 children. Now, when you get your child, it's a bundle of joy. But at the same time, it's a bundle of a lot of challenges. I don't want to say trouble or problems, challenges. Did it burp? Did it poop? How many times do you have to change the diaper? Is it sleeping too much? Is it sleeping not enough? And all these challenges that you face. So what did I do as a mom? To me, it was a challenge, and I was coming up with different ideas to solve that challenge. And I was doing trial and error, until I figured out the best solution for my child. So, as a mom, I was doing human-centered design. That's social entrepreneurship. So every mom is a social entrepreneur. And every dad who works and takes care of his children is also a social entrepreneur. So parents are social entrepreneurs. Later, I became a school teacher. When you graduate from science, usually you end up being a school teacher. And I don't know how many of you have taught in schools, but I taught for 10 years, from 1st grade to 12th grade. And believe me, if you can stand up in front of a sea of 5th graders, you can do anything, because they know everything about you. But they also have a lot of challenges that I, as a teacher, had to solve. I had to come up with ideas and trial and error with my students until I found a solution that catered to my individual students. Again, I was doing human-centered design. So as a teacher, I was a social entrepreneur as well. My dream of being a scientist never left me, by the way. And my husband found an ad after 10 years in the newspaper for a scholarship for Fulbright in the US. So he told me, Rana, isn't that your dream? Why don't you apply? So I applied, and I got the scholarship. So we had to make a decision, my husband and the 4 kids, to move to the US so I could pursue my dream. And my husband, who's amazing, He was a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. He resigned so that he could help me fulfill my dream. So choose your partner carefully. We went to the US, I did my PhD in molecular biology, but we moved back to Jordan because we need to come back to our countries to build them. Because if we don't build them, who's going to build them? We go out and we learn from others, but ultimately we need to come back. So I became a professor at the Hashemite University in Jordan. I wanted to establish my own lab and my own research area. I couldn't do the research that I was doing in the US because of lack of enough resources. And by the way, the PhD is only a part of the journey. You need to establish yourself later. It's just the skills and tools that you learn. So I went into science because I love it. It wasn't because it was a job or because I wanted a promotion. It was because I had that passion, that curiosity. And I wanted to contribute to science in a meaningful way, to do state-of-the-art science. So I had to think of a question that nobody else had thought of, that only I could ask, and that I only could answer. And so I discovered two ethnic populations in Jordan, Circassians and Chechens, that nobody had studied before, neither in Jordan or in their home countries. And we became the world experts on those two populations, and we published in the peer-reviewed, top-of-the-art journals, including Nature. So as one Nobel Prize physicist winner once said, a scientist is somebody who sees what everybody sees, but thinks what no one has thought. That's a social entrepreneur as well. So every scientist is also a social entrepreneur. Now, my curiosity led me to notice not just what's going on in my work and in my family, but what's going outside in the community around me. And I noticed that children don't read for fun, in Jordan, and then later I realized in a lot of places around the world. And to me, reading for fun is what unleashed my creativity and my imagination. And I wanted to answer the question, why? So I started doing trial and error, trying to figure out why. And I realized that children don't read for fun is because they don't love to read. And the question then became, how do I help children fall in love with reading? And I realized it's not lack of books or lack of education. It's actually lack of a role model, of parents reading aloud to their children as early as when the mother's pregnant. So what do? Do I wait for the government to pass a law that every parent should read aloud? That's not going to work. Do I knock on every door? I mean, that's not practical either. So I thought, you know what? I am going to be the change I want to see in the world. I'm going to start reading not just to my kids, but to the children in my own neighborhood. And I started reading aloud to the children in my neighborhood for 3 years. Trial and error, tinkering with this solution that I had come up with. Until today, this tinkering, that solution that I came up with and worked a long time for 3 years, became a program which today is called We Love Reading. It is an online platform in 10 languages and has spread to 63 countries around the world. And it's based on research and data and agency of the people who actually take the training and start reading aloud in their own neighborhoods in their native language in public spaces, which they own. Later, people told me, oh, Rana, you're a social entrepreneur. And I said, really? I didn't know that. I was trusting my gut feeling. I was doing what I thought was right. That's all. I was drawing from my religion and my upbringing and from my innate humanity. Finding a problem, a challenge that bothered me, right? And being like Hadith Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, كلكم راع وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته. Which is, everyone is a guardian. And then I started doing something, which even if it was small, being the change I want to see in the world, or Hadith Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, لا تحقرن من المعروف شيئا. I started doing something small in my neighborhood, and I made sure that I did quality work and did my homework, إتقان العمل, which is also I draw from my religion and Islam and my upbringing. And that's what social entrepreneurship is about. Now, it doesn't have to have a fancy, splashy, visible program and organization. It could be as simple as somebody working on themselves or within their family or within their local community. And everything in between. That's what social entrepreneurship is about. So I urge you to write about social entrepreneurship because every one of you is a social entrepreneur, whether you know it or not. I didn't know I was one, and I was actually doing it. So you are. But you need to write those stories. Why? Because we need to know about each other. We need to be inspired by each other. We want to read stories from people who sound like us, who look like us, who speak like us. Not just people who are different from us, or people from the past that we cannot relate to. So write your story. And just that I don't preach what I don't do, I've also written my story, 5 Scarves, that I urge you to read in Arabic and in English. But also, you need to write your story for the future generations. You owe it to them, that they hear your story from your voice, not from someone else. And if someone else writes your story, we can't blame them if we didn't fill that vacuum. Now, as a biologist, I have to invoke science in everything I say. And I want to remind everyone that nobody is similar to anyone else. Everybody's DNA is very different from any other human being who has ever lived, who is living today, or who will ever live in the future. So you are very unique. So don't deprive the world of what you can give it. And when you feel despair, as you hear the news and what people talk around you, and you feel you're just a drop in the ocean, trust yourself, believe in yourself, unleash your imagination, unleash your potential, and be the social entrepreneur your way, because you know best what that means to you and what you can do best for it. And that's how we can create systems change, from the grassroots up. And that's how you create real change, although it's going to take a long time, but it's real. And that's how we will solve the challenges we face, not just today, but in the future, achieving the Sustainable Development Goals and other challenges that are going to come up. Because we believe nothing is impossible. And that's how we will create a new future, a new dawn. A Sharq means east, but you know what occurred to me today? A Sharq also means the dawn. So together we can create a new dawn. And that's the chaos theory in physics. When a butterfly, it's called the butterfly effect. When a butterfly flutters its wings in one part of the world, it moves the air a centimeter. The result is a hurricane in beyond time and space that you can imagine. So I invite you to find the thing that bothers you. Come up with a solution for it that you can do today. And then move on and trust yourself. And remember, nothing is impossible. Be the butterfly that flies into the new dawn. Thank you very much.